before the House now is that the bill now be read a second time, and I give the call to the honourable member for Riverina.
The member for Boothby could have just tabled a note. She could have just stood there and said, "We're good and you're not," and left it at that. But I want to rebut her on many of the points that she made. And for a start, the point that she made about the very name of the bill we are debating, Help to Buy Bill 2023. It's 2024. If it were that important, if it were that vital, if it were that essential, why wasn't this bill legislated last year? It's a good question. Why wasn't it? If it is so critical to get people into homes, to build those houses, why didn't Labor do this last year when they obviously put the bill together? 2023. It's now 2024. As everything is with Labor, it's too little, too late. The member for Boothby went on and on about what Labor was doing and what we didn't do as a government. But let me remind the member for Boothby and others opposite, anyone caring to listen, what the coalition did do, what we did stand for, what we did represent. Supported almost 60,000 first home buyers and single-parent families into home ownership through the Home Guarantee Scheme, consisting of the First Home Loan Deposit Scheme, the New Home Guarantee and the Family Home Guarantee, with a deposit of as little as 5% or 2% respectively. Coalition's Home Guarantee Scheme supported 1 in 3 first home buyers. We protected the residential construction industry with more than 137,000 home builder applications, generating, wait for this, $120 billion. That's billion with a B, member for Jagga, of economic activity. Provided $2.9 billion, again, another B, not an M, a B, of low-cost loans to community housing providers to support 15,000 social and affordable dwellings, saving $470 million in interest payments to be reinvested in more affordable housing. Unlocked 6,900 social, affordable and market dwellings through the Coalition's $1 billion infrastructure facility to make housing supply more responsive to demand. Established the first home Super Saver scheme, helping 27,600 first home buyers accelerate their deposit savings through super. That's what we did. There was more, but we'll just leave it at that to counter the member for Boothby's arguments that the Coalition did nothing. It was a big package that we brought to government, to the people of Australia. Now, we are facing a housing crisis. It is so difficult for particularly young people to get into their first home. It used to be the great Australian dream. Under Labor, that reality is fast disappearing. And sadly, all too tragically, so many small businesses are going under Labor's watch, and many, I could almost argue most, of those companies going under, closing their doors, are construction companies, builders of houses. And they're not small companies either. Clough Group, ProBuild, Dildum Developments, Snowden Developments, ABG Group, and Condev. They've been some of the larger construction companies to fold, and some of the more recent casualties, Porter Davis Homes Group, once rated the 13th largest builder in Australia. It alone put 1,700 projects in jeopardy across multiple states. This is from information provided by Craig Donaldson of UNSW in an article 29 June 2023. There's that year again, 2023, when the Help to Buy bill was concocted by those opposite. Didn't do anything about it. Didn't bring it to Parliament or legislate it in 2023. We're now midway through 2024. I think Well, February 2024, midway through February 2024, they just realised that, gee, we better do something about this. Greens are on our back. They're going to take our preferences. They're not going to give us their preference. They're going to take our votes in those inner city electorates. And I do wish Labor well, because the very worst Labor member is always going to be better than the best Greens member. I get that, candidate. I get that. But, you know, construction companies have been collapsing so regularly. And there are a number of reasons why residential construction companies have been going bankrupt. COVID shutdowns, I appreciate, very difficult time. Extended periods of inclement weather and chronic supply chain issues to cash up infrastructure companies. You okay? Yeah. Competing for construction labour. First home builder stimulus packages being wound back under Labor's watch. The end of a prolonged cheap credit fuel surge. The industry has been at the centre of, unfortunately, a perfect storm. And there's some interesting comments about why construction companies are going under. There's been very pertinent points made by people such as Master Builders Association CEO Danita Warren. She said inflation and the federal government's proposed industrial relations changes. She said this in September last year, and we now know that those IR changes are now legislation, placing pressure on small construction companies. Well, if the fear of the IR changes was very real and tangible in September 23, imagine what the fear and the reality will be in February 2024. And Danita Warren, of course, was right then to worry and should be even more concerned now. While interest rates are starting to show fruits with consumer spending, the most sustainable solution to the inflationary problem lies on the supply side by bringing down the cost of doing business, as Warren said. This requires issues like labour shortages, materials costs and the regulatory burdens to be dealt with in a focused and urgent manner. Urgent. That was September 2023. We're now discussing the Help to Buy Bill 2023 in mid-February 2024. Should have been done last year. If it's that important, why wasn't it done last year? We hope all levels of government pull out all stops to tackling the very real housing market challenges and to do their bit to reduce costs, because we all know that a strong building industry underpins a strong economy. And, of course, it is so true. It's so true. That's why in COVID, that's why in government we provided so much support and help and encouragement and initiatives to the construction sector, to sparkies and plumbers, and chippies, tradies, making sure that they had the very best support available. Between July 2022 and April 2023, 1,709 construction companies across the country entered administration, according to data from the Australian Security and Investments Commission. July 2022 and April 2023, Labor in power. It's on Labor's watch. It's on Labor's terms. This includes the likes of Porter Davis, as I mentioned before, ProBuild, Pivotal Homes, and, in the member for Boothby's state, South Australia, Quattro. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. And you feel for those people who have entered a contract with a builder to build their dream home, and all of a sudden the construction company goes under, and then they're faced with the prospect of, what do I do? I've invested my money. How do I get it back? They have to go through that complete rigmarole of trying to fix up the mess that is left when a construction company succumbs, when a construction firm goes under. The only housing policies delivering support to first home buyers are the housing policies that Labor inherited from the former coalition government. The Albanese government has absolutely dragged its heels in introducing this legislation. They announced it many months ago. The government has already failed to deliver the Help to Buy, but this is not so unusual. It's not so unusual because Labor has failed on so many fronts. It was Help to Buy, a key election policy by Labor, but that was 2022. The title name of this policy includes 2023. It's now 2024. And we won't see until well into this year, at the earliest, the sort of start that Labor's promising with this policy. And Nine Network's Today Show co-host Carl Stefanovic hit the nail on the head on 12 September 2023 in an interview he did with the Minister for Housing, the member for Franklin. And he asked, "You better get cracking. 600 homes a day for the next 5 years to make 1.2 million homes. You've got Buckley's, haven't you?" That was the question he put to the Minister for Housing. And she said, "Well, obviously we're not building all of the 1.2 million homes over 5 years by ourselves, but 1.2 million homes. I wonder how many of those homes have been built, are being built, will be built." It'll be a long way short of 1.2 million, particularly with so many construction companies going under, particularly with the cost of living crisis that people are enduring. People are enduring under Labor's watch. And I get that Labor has put through the low and middle income tax relief, their words, not mine, this morning, a broken promise, another election promise that wasn't delivered for the Stage 3 tax cuts when they said it was legislated. They said it was, trust us, we're going to be accountable, we're going to be transparent. And they just keep breaking the faith. They just keep breaching promises with the Australian public. Now, Carl Stefanovic was right when he quizzed the Minister for Housing about what Labor was going to do, the funding that was going to be required, the delivery model that Labor was going to use. And again, I say this is such a crisis that we're under. I get that Labor's now trying to scramble because the Greens are out there and they're making all sorts of noises in inner-city seats that Labor wants to retain or win back. But in the midst of Labor's housing crisis, this underwhelming policy is too little too late. It went to the election promising to put in place a shared equity scheme, failed to explain that the scheme needs state government approval to operate. Failed to explain that. This means Labor has made yet another promise it will fail to deliver. It's all easy. Words are so easy. Promises are so easy. It's delivery that counts. It's delivery that matters. It's constructing homes at the rate that Labor said they were going to do that matters, but it's impossible. And then, of course, speaking of state governments, we've got the state Labor government in Victoria, and they've been the government there for so many years, so many years, 9 years, and yet they're trying to shut down the timber industry, shut down the very products by which houses are made, or part made. I cannot hear the member for Jagga Jagga, but I know she comes from Victoria. I know she'd be disappointed. I'm trying not to sledge her, but I know she'd be disappointed in her state government for doing that to the timber workers, to the forestry industry. I walked through the state forest at Tumbarumba the other day, and it's a perfectly good, working, productive, sustainable forest. Forestry is good for the country. It's good for storing carbon. Houses are good for doing all of that, and it's a perfectly sustainable industry that Labor at a state level, and no doubt this mob too, will and are shutting down. Labor has failed again to do what it should, to keep its promises. The Help to Buy Bill 2023 is now being debated in 2024. It should have been done, if Labor was serious, many, many months ago, last year. Too little, too late, not good enough, Labor.
I thank the honourable member.